doesn't scare me.
Hello, it's Tom with Digital Foundry.
And it's Dave here too.
Sony opened up with a pretty cool first game, God of War Reboot from Santa Monica Studios. It was a real sort of technical showstopper, I think.
Yeah, for me it was definitely one of the most impressive games at Sony's conference. Just the sheer range of effects and lighting on show is really quite something.
Right, so this brings Kratos back, but this time to a sort of Norse mythological setting, where we can expect, gods like Odin and Thor, that sort of thing. And technically, well, we've just switched on the frame rate graph, and it is a kind of 30 to 40 range of performance for this game, based on the current build. Of course, things may improve by the time of release, but this is how it stands right now, thanks to a 60 Hz feed we got from the show itself. Now, there are some tears along the way, but actually it's not very intrusive. You might catch it right at the top, like the top 10%. But besides that, it's a pretty sturdy level of performance.
It looks very reminiscent of God of War Ascension there, where there isn't really enough GPU headroom to hit 60 frames per second, so it's kind of, I guess, hovering more to an unlocked 30 FPS style sort of experience.
Yeah, the God of War series has come a long way, in fact. You remember the original God of War games, they were targeting 60, there were some drops, I believe.
There were, yeah.
But generally it was hitting that point. But in Ascension and God of War 3 even, we were seeing things go to about 30, 40 range. So this is nothing new, this is about what we'd expect. And it's strange we don't see a cap at 30.
Yeah, I do think it's a curious choice. Given that it is so close to 30 FPS, it would make more sense to cap at 30. But then again, we don't really know whether the developer is aiming for 60, and they just haven't, gotten around to optimize and extract sort of a higher frame rate.
Yeah, it is worth noting the game can just dip above the 40 FPS mark, but it is very rare. It's, when you're looking at the sky, that sort of thing. So let's move on to the kind of visuals and what they're doing with this game. It's characteristically a great showing from Santa Monica Studios. I think they're pretty hard to beat when it comes to the general art design and even the animations of these creatures they create, these fantastical beasts and all these figures you see in mythologies around the world kind of come to life in this virtual form, and they do this animation so brilliantly.
Yeah, it's very impressive, but they also haven't sacrificed sort of the graphics in other areas. If you look here, the level of particles and alpha effects on the show is really impressive, and they've coupled that with sort of dynamic lighting and volumetric effects, so the whole visual package really stands out.
They've also brought back that really nice motion blur effect they had from Ascension, which, had such a refined look. It makes it so cinematic, and, that's applied to object and camera. It's one of the things that I think makes these scripted scenes as we're taking down this boss kind of stand out, as it almost has a filmic look.
Yeah, I would agree. I did notice there is some occasional sort of ghosting when things are moving really fast, particularly when depth of field is on the screen, which is, I guess, kind of a little blemish there, but it doesn't stand out.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing we'd pick out when we stop the frame and have a look at that. That's a trail behind this character, but in practical terms, you're not going to really catch that. So a great looking game, a lot of volumetric lighting effects, really adds a density to the atmosphere, just an incredible looking landscape, sort of a Scandinavian frost.
The other thing that stands out with this particular environment, I don't know if you noticed, when Kratos and his son are walking through the snow, they leave sort of geometry-based footprints in the ground, and it seems like there's a fair bit of nuance in how the characters interact with the environment in ways that you normally wouldn't sort of take a second look at.
Actually, we should mention the fact we've moved to a completely free camera to check out all these details now. I mean, before in God of War, we always had a fixed camera. It was moving, but it was dictated by the developer. If they wanted you to see this angle of this enemy, you would see that, and it'd be rendered at this glorious level of detail. But now we have a completely free camera, the user can control it, which means they can't take any shortcuts, they can't cull geometry out as easily as they could before. It has to be all done at this high level of graphical detail.
I think of it as an animal.
Exactly, yeah, because the engine obviously isn't going to sort of know what's coming next. But at the same time, it's really impressive that despite these changes, they're still managing to really push the envelope out with the visuals in terms of how much detail there is on screen and the effects. So in that respect, it's looking rather good, and performance is still falling in line with sort of God of War Ascension at the moment. So
for me, I think it's one of the two best looking games on PS4 we've seen so far. Well, either that or Horizon, that's just been announced, is certainly one of the front runners. Right, so that about covers it, Dave. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed this analysis, please do give us a like or subscribe, and until next time, thanks for watching.
No. Finish what you started.